everyone, I am Rashmi Balamana. Currently I am apprenticeship year student and I am a second class holder of all the 3 years in Sri Lanka Law College. So today I am going to help you out with the subject that you come across when you are doing the second year in Sri Lanka Law College, that is Property Law 2, which is a bit more complicated subject when you compare with the other 6 subjects that you come across when you are doing the second year in Sri Lanka Law College, which is the reason why I selected that subject to teach you all. Okay, so at first let's take a look at the structure of your paper. So in your paper you get 2 parts, part 1 and 2. In part 1 you get 7 questions, out of which you have to answer 4. In part 2 you get 6 questions, out of which you have to answer 2. So all together you have to answer 6 questions. Okay, for the first one, which is the compulsory question, you will get 20 marks, and for the other questions you get 16 marks each. That's how your marks would be distributed throughout the paper. Okay, today I am going to focus on part 2 of your paper. So this part based on the Sri Lankan personal laws or special systems of law. There are mainly 3 personal law systems in Sri Lanka, that is Kandyan law, Tesavalame law and the Muslim law. The Kandyan law is a personal law system which is applicable to the Kandyan Sinhalese, while Tesavalame law is applies to the Tamil inhabitants of province of Jaffna, and Muslim law is applicable to the Muslims in Sri Lanka. So today I am going to focus on this Kandyan law part, but I am advising you, if you are a person who is comfortable with the other 2, I mean the Tesavalame law and the Muslim law, please go for it. The reason being, rather than getting ready for a completely novel area, it would be easy for you all to study something that you already know. So today I am going to discuss on Kandyan law of inheritance, because one of those 2 questions that you get from Kandyan law would be based on this Kandyan law of inheritance, while the other one would be based on donation, so law relating to gifts in Kandyan law. So let's get started. So as you can see in this slide, a person may inherit property either by testate succession or intestate succession. So then what is testate succession? Where a person dies leaving a will and bequeathing property, the heirs inherit the property by testate succession. Then yes, what you thought is correct. If a person dies without leaving a will, the property devolves by operation of the laws of intestate succession. So what is the rationale behind this? A will is a written document where the wishes of the deceased has been already drafted. Then there is no problem, no? Everything would be operated in accordance with the wishes of the deceased. But in the case of the absence of a will, then the law has to be intervened and resolve the problems that may arise during the procedure of distributing the property among the heirs of the deceased. Okay, that is called the intestate succession. So as you can see in this slide, variety of matters relating to persons subject to it, including inheritance rights, would be governed by these personal laws, right? Intestate succession of property as well as testate succession belonging to persons subjected to the 3 personal laws is governed by these respective systems of personal laws, right? Then what about the people who are not governed by these personal laws? People like you and me? Yes, we would be governed by the general law. As you can see, a testate succession general law has been laid down in Wills Ordinance number 21 of 1844, while the general law relating to intestate succession has been laid down in Matrimonial Rights and Inheritance Ordinance number 15 of 1876 as amended. However, remember that this Matrimonial Rights and Inheritance Ordinance expressly excludes its application to Kandyans, Muslims and to Tamils of the northern province who are subject of these personal law systems in Sri Lanka. Okay, so Today our topic is Kandyan Law of Inheritance. Kandyan Law of Inheritance is a customary law applicable to the Kandyan Sinhalese, as I said earlier. And remember that originally Kandyan law did not recognize this testate succession, but along with the British influence only, it was accepted that one could dispose their own property by executing a will. Okay, so this intestate succession part, pay attention to that. There you get this general law, no? Yeah, this would be the focus area when you are doing your conveyancing paper in your final year. But today I am going to focus on this Kandyan law part. Yes, okay, then let's move on. In order to understand this little bit complicated intestate succession law, we have to understand its intricate rules, and in order to do that, one has to be familiar with the concept of Kandyan family. So, H.W. Thambaiya in his Principles of Ceylon Law describes what is a definition, what is Kandyan family. So, let's take a look at on the definition of this Kandyan family. The Gedara or the family is the unit of the Kandyan family. A Gedara consists of a man who is married in Diga, his wife, his male children and unmarried female children. A daughter who is given away in Diga marriage does not belong to the father's Gedara, but becomes a member of that of her husband. But in the case of a Binna married daughter, she and her children are members of her father's family or Gedara. Therefore, on the death of a person, his property is inherited by his son, Binna married daughters and unmarried daughters. So, here you can see that Diga married daughters has been expressly excluded from the definition of Gedara. And here you have to understand the difference between this Diga marriage and Binna marriage. Diga marriage is where husband takes the wife away from her paternal home and keeps her either in his parents' home or in his separate house. Then what is Binna marriage? The other way around. Binna marriage is where the husband lives in the wife's or her parents' house. Let me introduce another concept here. Have you ever heard about a practice called ekagekama, eating in one house? Yeah, this is called fraternal polyandry, where wife would be shared among the several brothers of the same family. What is the reason behind this? There were two reasons mainly. First one was the poverty, and the second one was the landed gentry always wanted to ensure that property remained within their family without being flown out from the family. That was the main rationale behind this concept, which is also applicable to this exclusion of Diga married daughters from the concept of family. Why is that? Yes, she is going out from the family now. So, she is taking the family property away from the family. So, that is the reason why she will not be regarded as a part and parcel of the Kandyan family. So, Kandyan law of intestate succession is governed by KLDAO, Kandyan Law Declaration and Amendment Ordinance. So, when you are answering the question paper, keep this thing in mind. First, you have to write the name of the ordinance in full. Okay. At the first time you are referring to that ordinance, you have to write the name in full. Kandyan Law Declaration and Amendment Ordinance number 39 of 1938 as amended by Ordinance number 25 of 1942. Okay. And then you have to open brackets and say that this is the abbreviation that you are going to use on that point and onwards in your answer. You can use the abbreviation KLDAO. It would be fine to use that abbreviation on that point onwards. So, that is how you have to answer the paper, and keep in mind that this applies to the person subject to the Kandyan law. It has been stated in the section 1 subsection 2 of the KLDAO. Moving on, let's take a look at the next slide of our presentation. When we are talking about the inheritance law under Candian law, you have to remember that property has been divided into two here, Paraveni property and the acquired property. As clearly laid down in section 10 of KLDAO, Paraveni property, also known as ancestral or inherited property, means immovable property. So, movable will not come under this definition, means immovable property to which a deceased person was entitled by succession under a deed of gift and under a last will of a testator. So, that is called the Paraveni property. This Paraveni property can be further divided as maternal Paraveni and paternal Paraveni depending on from whom it was inherited. Keep that in also mind, okay? And as clearly laid down in the section 10 subsection 3, all the other property of the deceased is regarded as the acquired property, and you can cite the case law of Lebbe versus Banda here, okay? Yes, moving on, under the Candian law, the devolution of property by intestate succession will depend on two factors. First one would be whether the deceased is a man or a woman, and the other one would be on whether the property is immovable or movable, okay? These two factors are really important. Then only you will understand the laws with regard to this devolution of property under Candian inheritance law. So, then we are going to focus on section 11 of KLDAO. They have laid down the law relating to the devolution of immovable property of a deceased intestate man. So, there they say that when you read through this your note that I have provided you, you will understand that a surviving wife only has a life interest in her deceased intestate husband's property only for the purpose of maintenance. Here she is entitled to an estate for life in the acquired property of her husband, and if there is no acquired property or if such property is insufficient, then she will be entitled for the Paraveni property as well. We can put it like this. Her life interest extends to Paraveni property, and if the deceased leaves a child or a descendant by a former marriage, the surviving spouse's life interest is limited to 1/2 of the acquired property. In Tikiribanda versus Dingiribanda, court held that when a person who is subject to the Candian law declaration and amendment ordinance dies leaving his widow and children by her, and also children by a previous marriage, the per capita shares of the children of the previous marriage are not subject to the widow's life interest in a 1/2 share of the acquired property of the deceased, except if and to such extent as the per capita share of the widow's own issue are less than 1/2. Okay. Yes. If the deceased left legitimate children who are minors in need of maintenance, and if there is no or sufficient Paraveni property to maintain such children, then the surviving spouse is bound to maintain the children out of her estate for life in the acquired property of the deceased. Only where if the deceased leaves no heirs to survive him, does the surviving spouse succeed to all his property, both Paraveni and acquired. However, the surviving spouse contracts a Diga marriage. If the surviving spouse contracts a Diga marriage, she forfeits her life interest in the Paraveni property, but not that of the acquired property of the deceased husband. Okay. Let's move on. That's all about section 11 of KLDAO. Then we are going to look at the inheritance of a Diga married daughter after her father's death. If a daughter contracts a Diga marriage before the death of the father, she forfeits her rights to his estate. If, however, a daughter contracts a Diga marriage after the death of the father, she is still entitled to her share of the father's estate. However, if within a period of 1 year after the date of her marriage, her brothers and binna married sisters tender her the fair market value of the immovable property constituting her share, she is bound to convey the said property to them. So it's little bit harsh, I would say. So then let's go to the other slide. Now actually we are at the latter part of our lecture. Here we are going to take a look at this legitimate and illegitimate difference. When we are talking about the inheritance of illegitimate children, before going to that extent, let's take a look at what is this legitimate children and what is this illegitimate children, the definitions on these two. Yes, legitimate shall mean born of parents married according to law. So yes, definitely the illegitimate shall mean born of parents not married according to law. And in section 14 they have clearly stated that let's think about children who have been procreated between the same parties before the marriage. So here these children will get legitimacy if those parties get married according to law. This has been stated in the section like this: a legal marriage between any parties shall have the effect of rendering legitimate any children who may have been procreated between the same parties before the marriage, unless such children shall have been procreated in adultery. But if you have procreated the children in adultery, then you can't do it. So we are moving on, section 15 of the KLDAO. Here you can understand a contrasting difference between general law and Canadian law. Unlike the general law of interstate succession, Canadian law recognizes illegitimate children as heirs to their deceased father's interstate estate. When you are studying general law and interstate succession, you will see that illegitimate children would only be treated as heirs to their deceased mother's interstate estate, which is the other way around in Canadian law. So illegitimate children have no right of inheritance to the paraveni property of their father, yet in the absence of legitimate children or their descendants and subject to the interests of the surviving spouse, they are entitled to succeed to the acquired property of their father. Nonetheless, where the deceased had registered himself as the father of the child when registering the birth of the child, or where the deceased in his lifetime has been judged by a court to be the father of that child, then such child, although illegitimate, succeeds to the acquired property of the deceased equally with the legitimate children. So this is an important point. Most of the time you may get this question in your paper. There they say that two instances where an illegitimate child may be treated as legitimate child. First one is where the father of the child includes his name as the father of the birth certificate, and the other one is if a competent court declares that this person is the father of the illegitimate child. Yes, now we are at the last section in our lesson. We are talking about the inheritance of movable property. The relevant law has been laid down from section 20 to 23 of KLDAO. You can see here that the ordinance makes specific provisions for the devolution of movable property. For example, let's take a look at section 20. There they say that heirlooms and live and dead stock pertaining to immovable property to which the deceased became entitled to as paraveni property devolves in the same manner as immovable property. Then the treatment, the way in which the law has been treated will not make any difference whatsoever here. Okay. Then section 21 states that where a man dies leaving a spouse, she entitled to all wearing apparel, jewellery and ornaments used by her or provided for her by the deceased husband. And in section 22 they say that subject to the right of the surviving spouse, movable property of the deceased devolves upon his or her children, and the issue without discrimination as to their gender, marital status, legitimacy of their birth. If, however, the deceased was a male and leaves legitimate children over the issue, an illegitimate child does not succeed to the property. Then section 24 says that the surviving spouse becomes entitled to all movable property of the deceased where he or she leaves no child or descendants. So I will show you two important points here. Look at the section 22. This is a situation where surviving spouse has been treated in a way of a legitimate child of the deceased. And look at section 24. There they say that the surviving spouse will be treated as legitimate child, the only legitimate child, in a situation where he or she leaves no child or descendant. This will mark the end of our lecture. So if you are having any problem with regard to this area, please let me know in the comment section below. I will reply to you as soon as possible. So okay then, bye bye, stay safe.